Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Tiabu, and I'm once again here to talk about the shows I watched today. Nothing super standout in today's day, but we have our first repeat show, which is a thing. Let's just go through them real fast because let's just go through them real fast. First thing that I watched was Magia Record episode 2. There was nothing here that like offended me or that I hated. There were some pretty cool cuts, some pretty cool sequences, some pretty cool general production-y, colory things. None of the characters grab me. I don't resonate with any of them. I don't care about any of them. We're introduced to a whole bunch of new characters in this episode, and their dynamic, while it has some intrigue to it, isn't terribly interesting to me, and neither is the major mystery around main girl's missing sister. I just cannot bring myself to care, and that's probably more on me than it is on the show, but my concerns in episode 1 about like things feel a little bit off here and not in an intended sort of way still hold true at this point. I'm dropping Magia Record. If it gets amazing a little bit later, then great, but for now I'm not that interested, and it's having trouble holding my attention for a full 24 minutes every episode, so I'm out. Yeah. Easy peasy, done. Next thing was Kyoko Suiru. Shockingly good. Really interesting script. Great dynamic between the main characters. Cute character design on the main girl. Cool character design on the main guy, although relatively generic and straightforward on him. Interesting twist at the end. The yokai and monsters that we see are pretty interestingly animated, and there are some really cool cuts in this episode. A particular cut that actually reminds me quite a bit of some of the stuff that I saw relatively recently in Bubblegum Crisis episode 1 a couple of weeks ago, with some cool things that are almost spoilers, so I won't get into that. Definitely an interesting concept, great characters. My one gripe with this is probably something that most people won't even notice, let alone care about, and that is that the entire show is pretty dramatically desaturated, and there are flashback sequences where it's even further desaturated, but the whole thing has either like grayish whitish filter over everything, or they just chose a color palette that doesn't have a lot of saturation or pop to it. It makes the whole aesthetic of the show rather bland while consistent, and I think that they're doing it to try to help the 2D characters blend in with the digital backgrounds a little bit, which works, but the whole thing ends up kind of looking like a grayish mass, and I don't really like that. However, most people probably aren't going to give a damn because the fundamentals of this show are pretty damn strong, and I would recommend checking it out. You might like it. It was definitely, of the shows I watched today, probably the winner, just in terms of being intriguing and having an actual plot that sort of made sense and was well directed and well put together and flowed nicely and had a nice pace to it. Get a little bit of intrigue on the characters, get some goofiness, some actual humor, and also some action. It was a lot of good things in this episode, and I'd say check it out because it's not bad. It's pretty good. It's just got this one visual thing to it that irks me a little bit, and that's just because I'm me and I get irked by weird things. So check it out. Next thing was Boku no Tonari. Where's the full name of this show? Boku no Tonari ni Ankoku Hakai Shin ga imasu. A destructive god sits next to me. Boku Haka. I looked at the cover of this and I was like, oh, this looks colorful and fun. Maybe it'll be okay. It's pretty clearly just based on the title. A destructive god sits next to me. It's pretty clearly about a chuny. Main character is not a chuny, but he has like his hair functions like cat ears, I guess. I don't know. And he's got like a tail. I don't know what the fuck is up with that. I hated this. I absolutely did not like this. The entire portion of it that I watched, and I did not finish the episode. I went to double speed, and then I found that boring, so I just skipped through the latter half of the episode. Um, the worst thing that a comedy show can do is be fucking boring. And this comedy show, if it is in fact supposed to be comedic, which I got the impression that it was fucking boring. There was not a joke that landed with me, and it was all I could do to give it a bit of a pity laugh because it failed miserably at being funny or fun. I got nothing out of this and would not recommend it to anyone. This was bland. It's colorful. I don't like the way it's colorful, but it's got probably some of the hair gradients that I found least offensive in the last few weeks. They were kind of okay, but mostly I think that was because everything else is so off-putting. That I was just sort of grasping for straws of things to be okay with this show. It didn't function at all for me in the way that I think it was supposed to. There's a pretty clear Manzai dynamic going on between the two main characters, or the main character and the Chuny who sits next to him, and it just fell flat in every single way. I do not like it. I don't like the OP. I don't like the general music of the show. I do not like this show. It really did nothing for me and was genuinely difficult to watch, so I didn't and I won't. That's it. Final thing that I watched today was Ishuzoku Reviewers, which is a sex comedy, and it actually functions as a sex comedy. It's funny. There are cool characters who are interesting and have a fun dynamic between them. There are lots of mostly naked or entirely naked, depending on which version you watch, ladies. I will say that as, like, in terms of personal sexual preferences, none of the girls are what I would find appealing. I'm not into the level of thickness that the author clearly is. So I don't find them hot, but they're nude and there's lots of bodacious titty everywhere, lots of it. So if that's what you're into, you're gonna love this one. Probably not a show to watch with reactions or to watch with people. This is something you probably want to watch alone. Just, you know, but there's some humor in it. There's some goofiness. It's an interesting take on the whole fantasy idea. Like, yeah, obviously, if there were a fantasy world where all these different species were interacting, why wouldn't there be lots of brothels where people have lots of interspecies sex? And as an emergent property of that, why wouldn't a group of people who are experienced with all kinds of interspecies sex start writing reviews and telling people, like, oh yeah, having sex with harpy girls is fucking great. They're the best. Yeah, sure. It works on pretty much every level. The only thing that doesn't land for me personally is that I don't find the girls that hot, because they're not my type at all. They just look like they're going to have terrible back problems in their future, and I feel bad for them for that. But I can see where the sexiness can be appealing here. There's a lot of it, and I don't find this offensive in the way that I find something like Plunderer offensive, where it's like, what the fuck is this? Is this rape fantasy doing in my shonen? In this case, it's just, that's the point. The sex is the point, and it's explicitly the point, and all of the girls are actively working as part of the sex trade and doing it because they want to, and cool, yeah, sure, fine. I have no problems with Ishizoku Reviewers. It's fun and goofy and fills a very specific late night niche, and if you're into big titty cowgirls and stuff, then you're gonna love this show. Watch it. Yeah, give it a shot. Pick up the uncensored release, because why wouldn't you? That's it. So those are the shows that I watched. I'm dropping Magia Record. I'll probably watch another episode of Kyoko Suiru Inspector. We'll just call it Inspector. I'll probably watch another episode of that because it is interesting. I just find it kind of, the color design is really awful. It's really bad. And Boku no Tonari, whatever was garbage. Was just bad. Ishizoku Reviewers is a very different kind of garbage, but it's gonna be the garbage of a lot of people. And if you're into your fantasy sex fetishes, then so are the characters in this show. So you might like it. Those are the shows that I watched. That's all that I watched today. Nothing really stand out, except I guess Inspector was pretty darn good. Would recommend. That's it for me. Me, Tiabu. These are shows. They exist. You can go and watch them. Have fun. Peace.